Hi, I'm James Eade, and this is episode 5 of season 2 of Roar, where we express what we feel about what is needed from the average United States citizen to maintain our democracy. We celebrated 250 years of the republic that was formed so long ago, and we've never had a despot, a fascist government. We've never had these things that have been so popular in other, or not necessarily popular, but widespread throughout the rest of the world. So, we've been many times been called the leaders of the free world. But is that in danger now? Are we just putting on some sort of false front to the rest of the world, or is it really in jeopardy? And we have to think, have we ever had a president that has monetized the presidency the way this one has? Have we ever had a president that will tell you one thing one day and the next another day another thing the next day, the way this one does? Have we ever had a president that has started a war of choice without the approval of Congress, and then declared a ceasefire, and declared the ceasefire isn't working, and then declared that he's going to increase the bombing and increase the terror, wipe out an entire civilization? Have we ever had a president that talks like this? And we're going to bring our guests on now to tell me a little bit more about what they think is, and I think what's right with America will fix what's wrong with it, but they're going to tell me what's really bugging them today. What do they want to roar about? I'm going to add Rick Rosner. Rick, thank you for joining me. And Don Steen, you're also a regular guest, and I'm so grateful for you for showing up today. And Rick and Donald, let's start with Donald. What's the primary thing that you want to roar about today, Donald?
Well, I think that the war in Iran is something that's really worth talking about, because it's funny, the New York Times lately has actually, in the middle of their articles, has been saying, well, since we lost the war in Iran, yeah. they just take it as given that we've lost the war in Iran. So the consequences, and some of the crazy things he's doing, like the latest tariff thing that he's trying to do. I mean, ultimately, I heard somebody talking, or listen. I think it was in The Economist. I was listening to an Economist podcast, and they said, we would like to see things go back the way that we think things could go back the way they were. But they said, no, that's never going to happen again. The real world's completely realigning, and the damage that he's done is so incredibly significant that, maybe we could talk a little bit about all the things that he's been doing that, and hopefully maybe some people that aren't aware of it might become aware of it.
So tariffs are a lot of international tariffs are illegal. You can't do them on a whim. And that's already been demonstrated by the courts, which threw out Trump's. So Trump needs a reason to impose tariffs. And his latest one, as of today, is tariffs on 60 countries because these countries use slave labor. Now, this is, there is slave labor in the world, but the countries he's talking about, England, Germany, no, they don't. And it's a transparently bullshit excuse. And these tariffs will eventually get thrown out. But in the meantime, Trump will have another 3, 4, 6 months of tariffs, which wreck our economy. Trump first introduced tariffs in March and April of 2025. And since then, we've had basically zero job creation in the U.S. They've fucked our economy. So my general thesis for today is we've entered the criminal phase of Trump's presidency, where it's nothing for the people, it's all for self-enrichment or just random whims and acting on weird bad ideas.
And his grudges, all of his grudges, he's out trying to get everybody he feels.
Right. So and he's trying to silence the freedom of the press.
It's helpful when you think back to the Nazis, to think of them as not a government, but as a criminal gang that held all the power. So in 1933, when Hitler came to power, Germany had brutal problems. They had years and years of hyperinflation, where
Treaty of
prices
Versailles
went up by 20% a day. Prices doubled every 3.7 days in the early 20s. And then the whole world was in a depression. And Germany was being forced to pay all the costs of World War I, because the International Court decided that they were mostly responsible for it, and they were being crushed. So Hitler arose to address actual problems.
Right.
But within months, years, his government had switched from doing things for the people to being a criminal enterprise that existed solely to exercise his whims and steal and murder. By 1943, the war was lost, but Hitler did most of his murdering of his enemies from 1943 on for no reason. No, it didn't make the country better. He just wanted to kill people. And, Hitler's not, Trump isn't murdering millions of people, but he's doing stuff for nonsensical reasons. And the one thing that really pisses me off in the past couple of days is, so 18 people have died in the Iran war, U.S. troops, thousands of Iranians have died. And it's clear that, it's bad they died. It's good that we haven't lost hundreds or thousands. And it's clear that we can't win the war without putting boots on the ground, which would kill thousands of American troops. Well, what Trump did was he's lowered the death count from 18 to 14 because he says 4 of those people died while there was a ceasefire. So it wasn't really a war. So those deaths don't count. That is such insane freaking bullshit.
It's incredible that anyone would have the gumption to say that out loud, let alone to the American people, United States citizens. And, are we going to continue to turn a blind eye to what's going on? Because not only has he enriched himself, but it's also his family. And there was such an uproar about Hunter Biden, and now his son-in-law has made billions.
Hunter Biden is all over X now, saying he owns up to the stuff he did, but he's correctly saying that the stuff that the Trump offspring are doing it outdoes anything he did 100-fold.
Oh, absolutely. I think that can't be denied.
Well, here's one more thing that's crazy. So when Trump posts on Truth Social, which is the social medium he owns, the market moves and particular stocks move depending on what Trump says. Trump is offering early access to his tweets for $100,000 a month. If you're a big investor and you want advance information about how the market is going to move, he will give you that advance information if you pay him. This is wildly corrupt and illegal.
Monetizing the presidency again, which he has done consistently. And in his second administration has been much worse than his first, because he now thinks there are no consequences for his actions.
And he's right. The first consequence, he has stuff shot down in the courts, but so he was shot. He had to pay back a bunch of money that was taken in via tariffs, but it didn't affect him personally.
Right. No.
And he's doing it again on another bullshit excuse that he's trying to stop slavery.
Yeah.
And he'll get another, as I said, a bunch of months until the courts shoot it down again.
Right. Yeah, and he's using taxpayer money, not his own.
I guess he didn't get the memo about Amazon and Walmart, right?
In what sense, Donald?
Slave labor.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's another show. But I do appreciate the comparison because um, everyone can get everyone would say yes, we're against slavery. No, most people would say that. But the fact is that he's using that, which is often done because the presidency is such a bully pulpit, and it's now a real bully's pulpit where he can say anything, and some people will believe him, and he can say these things as an excuse for what he's actually doing, which is separate, and the motivation from the intention behind what he's doing is different than what he is saying, and he knows it, and it's up to the American citizens to inform themselves so that they know it. And this is one of the things that I worry about because we did reelect this guy. And he did show us a great deal in his first administration, but all bets are off in his second. He just doesn't. And he was able to put 3 justices on the Supreme Court, which has tilted things in so that they have expanded the power of the executive branch in a way that's going to affect our democracy going forward into the future. And as Donald pointed out before, these things that he's done for the rest of the world and their approach to the United States now, how they think of the United States, that's, if not irreparable, that's going to take a long time to
I want to partially defend the Supreme Court.
All right.
Because one of the nice surprises over the history of the Supreme Court is you try to get somebody onto the court because you think they'll be a certain way politically, and then they end up
like Souter.
Earl Warren, yeah.
They end up doing their job.
Right.
So we have 9 justices. Only 2 of them are wildly crazy, corrupt assholes.
Alito and Brown?
Alito and Thomas.
Thomas, sorry. Yeah.
Everybody else will, as long as you stay away from their pet issues, will often do their job. Like Amy Coney Barrett belongs to a very hardcore sect of Christianity.
Right.
And she will always rule against abortion.
Right.
But outside of that,
or choice. Yeah.
So outside of that, she usually does her job thoughtfully.
I agree.
And even Gorsuch's pet issue is the environment. He's anti-environment. His mom was appointed by Reagan to run the EPA 40 years ago in order to destroy the EPA. And so he comes from a family that hates environmental regulation. But outside of that, he often does his job in a reasonable way. Kavanaugh, he looked really bad during the hearing. Everybody looked bad during those hearings, but he looked particularly bad, because he was rapey in high school. But these guys, these people, they try to do their jobs in a lot of instances. 7 out of 9 of them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And
I agree. Amy Coney Barrett, Trump has just unleashed torrents of anger at her, calling her every name, stupid, unethical, blah, blah, blah. He's so mad because she, as you said, is doing her job.
And he thinks that if you criticize the president, which is every U.S. citizen's right, you're committing treason. And, we talked about Trump has not committed murder, but ICE agents have. I don't think there's anything that we can say to sugarcoat that.
No, the latest couple of murders, one in particular, this guy who has shown has been violent and mentally ill since 2009. It was made an ICE agent and shot a guy in cold blood, even though this is a guy who would never in a million years be put on the LAPD, which does a thorough background check and gives you hardcore psychological testing.
Right.
I know one or two people who were excellent candidates for being police officers who got shot down on psych, on the psych eval.
Right.
It's a tough thing, and but ICE is doing little to no background checks. They put people on the street with as little as 6 weeks of training.
Right.
If you're going to be a cop,
yeah,
you go to the academy. You're there for at least 8 months,
right,
and then you're an apprentice cop.
You're still not trusted,
for like a year. Yeah. Well, the police department decides when you can be trusted, but it's at least a year. Where you're riding along with your training officer and being hazed and brutally evaluated. Because police departments fuck up a lot, but most of them take policing seriously.
Yeah, and killing American citizens is frowned upon, and but they circle the wagons around these ICE agents who are poorly trained, don't have the background checks and psych evals, So this is one of the things. The other thing that still is, and I want you to tell me that I'm wrong about this, but Trump is doing he was on the air, but ABC didn't, and NBC I don't think carried it, complaining again about how the 2020 election was stolen from him. It was rigged, but he's doing everything in his power to rig this one, trying to stop vote by mail, which he's failing at, trying to the gerrymandering that's going around the country. There's no question he's been supporting and playing a role in doing all of that. And the SAVE Act is really thinly disguised to suppress the vote.
Well, he's the Republicans are on track to lose big. Every indicator says that, regardless of what, even with Trump messing with it. Now, the courts have ruled against Trump interfering with vote by mail.
Right.
But he has a friendly postmaster general. And I don't know if you guys dealt with the USPS during 2020. I love the U.S. Postal Service. It's a great institution. It's in the Constitution. It's supposed to be not for profit, which means they can provide services, for a reasonable price. It's for old people like my wife and me. It's shocking. A stamp is 82 cents now, I think. Still the greatest bargain in the world. You can send a letter from any place in America to any other place for 82 cents.
Yeah.
And you can send a package for $6 compared to FedEx, $50. Anyway, in 2020, thanks to COVID and Trump's postmaster general, service got really bad. I had packages arriving just with the shit kicked out of them, broken into. My wife ordered me some beef jerky for my birthday. Somebody got in there and ate half the beef jerky. It was really bad service. And we may be gearing up for that again because Trump has appointed yet another postmaster general who is friendly to him. And the courts may say you can't fuck with the mails, but I've already had a couple packages go on weird cross-country trips, go the opposite direction, hundreds of miles that they should have gone. And so I got to tell people, well, two things. One is it's fucking hot right now. And if you're our age, I'm learning. I don't have the resistance I had to heat stroke. I've been getting horrible symptoms because I let myself get dehydrated and overheated. My mouth, I'm getting canker sores.
Tea tree oil.
So there's that. And I can't get a boner. It's so
now that's an outrage.
It really it's.
My body invented Viagra.
But
that's one of the packages that got rerouted.
It's my package that's suffering misadventures. But anyway, like in LA this week, it's getting up to 106, 108 degrees. Phoenix, 118 degrees. Frickin' Boise, 101. People
And
in
he's
Boise
dismantling
don't
all
know
of the EPA protections that we've been trying to put in place. He's against electronic vehicles. He's for coal, oil, and all of this kind of old, the fossil.
Yeah, but I mean, Trump aside, I'm just saying, if you're one of our viewers, and I don't know how many they are, and if you're our age, just you got to protect yourself against the freaking heat. I didn't do anything.
Yes.
I bought a wet vac for our carpet because our dog pisses every place, and I was eager to try it out. And it turns out I can't even vacuum the carpet without getting heated at my advanced age.
Well, yeah, and there are multiple deaths in France and Europe, and so this is.
There's a book. I think it was a bestseller called Ministry of the Future, and the book starts out with a heat wave in India, where they don't really have air conditioner, and it killed 20 million people. And we're going to see that. It's coming. And even in the United States, I mean, as you pointed out, people are dying, and there's areas that, like in France and things like that, where they've never had air conditioners because they never needed them.
Right. Yeah, and like 4,000 people died in France last year from heat.
It's astounding. But the main thing is that what he's doing is not only what Reagan did, would put in somebody who's anti-EPA in charge of it. And he's surrounding himself with people who the only criteria is they're loyal to him. So he's gotten rid of the people who are competent and replaced them with incompetent people, but they are loyal to him.
All right. So a couple more things. One is, if you can, drop off your ballot at the polling place or vote in person, and be kind of leery of voting by mail. If you do vote, and vote by mail if you have to, but get your ballot in early, because the quality of the mail may disintegrate over the next few months.
Right, that'll be the November surprise.
And this isn't a Trump complaint, but when it's 118, when it's 108, don't fly into Phoenix, Sky Harbor Airport. Don't fly into Albuquerque, Denver, Houston, if you can help it, at the height of summer heat, because the air is too fluffy and it doesn't hold planes up very well. So your plane has to come in at going 20 knots faster than normal. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Your plane's going to be flying, and you may have an aborted landing, all of which is somewhat terrifying. So if you can wait till cooler months to go to the hot ass cities.
Okay. Wow. So the roaring about the environmental change that's going on, it's not Trump's fault, but he's doing everything he can to dismantle the things that we could do to mitigate it. Because many people think we've already crossed the line. Yeah, we have. Yeah, I tend to be on that side as well. And the consequence, if we put everything we can into it right now, we have a fighting chance to mitigate it, but not to stop it. And we're not putting everything we can into it because there are still deniers, and one of them is in the White House right now.
Yeah, there's one thing in our favor. It's a bad news, good news thing, which is the whole world is making fewer babies. We've got a fertility crisis. Gen Z is they're on their phones all the time. They don't have the social skills or the desire to do the work it takes to get laid, right? Because there's a cavalcade of porn and just other entertainment. Everybody's in a 300, with two roommates in a 400 square foot, studio apartment where you can't get in, you can't get laid enough, when you've don't have a room, you've just got a partition because somebody put up a sheet. You don't have the money to have a kid. Anyway, there are a bunch of reasons why most of the world is not having enough babies, which is bad because economic growth is an easy way to have an economy work.
Yeah, including immigration. which will do the jobs that you don't want to do and start businesses that you wouldn't have started. And it's been the fundamental driver of the American economy for a long, long time.
Everyone's and right now our population is pretty flat. We're growing at a rate of less than 0.25% a year, lowest in history. And it would be negative if we didn't have immigration.
And China and Japan are also facing the same thing.
But what this means is that the planet hits peak humanity, hits an all-time high, and then starts dropping the population. It was supposed to happen in 2100 when the population was 10.5 billion. Now that we're not making enough babies, it could happen as soon as the early 2050s at 9 billion. And that's good news for global warming because people are a source of we
certainly right. But they can't be more responsible. Go ahead, Ron.
Another aspect of it is that, especially now, the Iranian crisis, which Trump caused, of course, is making countries really put a lot more energy into alternative. I mean, we put in solar in our house, and it saves us a lot. Yeah, and we also feel great about it. We can run our dish. The dishwasher supposedly takes less water to clean things than doing it by hand, because you're running the faucet. So now we can put 5 things in our dishwasher and run it because who cares? I mean, it's solar. It doesn't cost us anything, and
it's less water.
Here's another little bit of good news.
Let me finish where I was going with this. Because of that, alternative energy is becoming one of the biggest businesses in the world, and Trump militantly made sure that the United States can't cash in on it. And I mean that's like so fucking stupid. And one other little thing about it: the reason people aren't using coal is because it's too expensive. It costs way more than natural gas and way more than solar. So everywhere in the world, I mean, China is creating solar. They still use a lot of coal, but they're trying to phase it out. They're making solar systems way faster than we are. So
yeah, they're kicking our butts in that.
The Trump's reasons are always stupid. He doesn't like wind power because he owns a golf course in Scotland or Ireland or something where close to the coast, and there were these offshore, big old turbines. He didn't like that they messed up his view, so he's gonna fuck over wind for an entire country.
Yeah.
And coal, we're down to 40,000 coal miners. In the 20s, we had almost 1 million when we didn't have alternatives to coal. Now, as you said, coal it's pricey. You got to dig tunnels into the earth and send people down there to blast it out of the walls.
And the other thing that's good news is Trump's approval rating has been plummeting. This is so most of the United States is catching on, and it's pretty much based on what he's done in Iran, because it's caused oil was at 100 right now, and people are feeling the pinch in their pocketbooks when they go to fill up their gas tanks, and when they go to the grocery stores, things are just more expensive. So the Republican Party, I just saw this, is for the first time in my recollection, the Democrats have a 1-point advantage over the Republicans in terms of how they would handle the economy. This has been historically one of the things that the Republicans could run on, but he's thrown such a monkey wrench into our economy that everybody's kind of waking up and saying, no, these guys. And Congress has been just an enabler for him. Congress has not grown a backbone.
We'll see, like half of voters don't pay any attention until 3 weeks before the election.
Yeah, that's unfortunately
is the common
the case.
But when you poll people, Trump is well underwater on all major issues. Immigration, he's negative 13% net approval. Trade, negative 23%. The economy overall, negative 26%. And inflation, when you subtract the number of people who disapprove of how he's doing from the people who approve, he's at negative 38.5%.
Yeah. Well, and that's well earned. He's done a very good job of earning this negative approval.
He's done almost nothing for Americans, particularly in the past year.
None of his promises on his campaign have been held through.
I want to disagree with that slightly. He's done an enormous amount for people like Elon Musk.
Well, yeah. The wealthy are getting wealthier. Yeah. There's no question.
Himself and his family.
And he's enriched himself. And as you pointed out earlier with the idea of I'll tell you in advance which stocks are going to go up, basically. He's been manipulating that all along, but he knows he's going to do a strike in Iran and the price of oil will go up. There are a certain amount of people who are given that information prior to the action, and they can place their bets on the market accordingly. And so this is part of the corruption, the criminality that Rick mentioned. And so the enriching of the very few at the expense of the very many has been part of the presidency legacy. History will not look kind. And
we're not a democracy, we're a kleptocracy.
Yeah. You know, I'm more and more agreeing with that. Because, you know, we've known for money, you know, follow the money, and, you know, the politicians are getting supported by the energy companies and things like that. So they're going to vote a certain way. And so that's always been the case, but it's never been heightened to this level. So it's so transparent. It isn't transparent, but it's so hard to hide.
It's pretty blatant. Yeah. So the Republicans can't run on their record in the
right.
But so what they're running on is fear. And what they're using is communism and socialism. That they're saying that if you vote for Democrats, you're going to turn America into a communist hell state, basically. And all the usual sources, everybody at Fox News and One America News and Newsmax, they're all beating the same drum.
Of course.
However, if you refer to the Heritage Foundation is where Trump gets his ideas from. They're a hyper conservative. They want to establish a Christian dominion government and do away with, you know, also they want to shrink the government so it doesn't do much for people. And I'm sure not everybody at the Heritage Foundation is a lunatic, but they do have some people who are so conservative. There's somebody at the Heritage Foundation who says that it should be illegal to have non-procreative sex. That if you're having sex and there's not a chance that somebody can get pregnant from it, it should be illegal, including masturbation.
Because it might lead to dancing. What's the argument against
it?
It's just that's not what Jesus wants you to do.
Oh.
Jim.
And so they're a creepy organization. However, they do some stuff that's good. And one thing is they have an index of economic freedom for 90% of the countries in the world. 10% of the countries in the world are such a mess they can't be ranked what they call economic freedom is really capitalism. So the Heritage Foundation ranks countries by how capitalistic they are. And the U.S. is doing fine. We're not drifting anyplace. We are the most capitalistic mega country in the world. Among countries that have more than 80 million people, we are the most capitalistic, and our numbers aren't declining. They rate you on like 10 different metrics, and they're holding up. We're not being socialist or
communist. Yeah, it's obviously. Go ahead.
I want to point out that the last person who really drove this anti-communist thing was Roy Cohn.
Yeah.
Who was a lawyer for McCarthy.
Right.
And Roy Cohn was also Trump's mentor. Yeah. So he's just revising.
The apple didn't fall far from the tree. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's a movie.
This
called
is an
The-
old song and dance, and it was effective at some point. So you remember Joe McCarthy holding up, I have in my hand all the names of these communists in the State Department.
So there's a movie
It's a
called
lie.
The Apprentice that didn't get wide distribution because it was making fun of Trump. That shows how Roy Cohn, who was an evil ass lawyer, but really a good one in terms if you hired him, how Cohn gave him all these lessons that Trump obviously uses every day. Never apologize. If it serves you to not tell the truth, don't tell the truth. Attack, accuse your opponents of what
what you're doing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a playbook that's been around for a long time, but nobody has been as blatant about it as Trump is, and I do think that the average American citizen is waking up, United States citizen is waking up to the fact that you can't believe what comes out of this guy's mouth. And will they show up and vote and throw the bums out? We're going to have to wait and see. And November seems like right around the corner sometimes, and other times it seems so far away. And we don't know what Trump will do right before the election.
One positive thing I've been reading that makes me a little hopeful is that Democrats are pretty fired up, and they're probably going to vote in large numbers. And Trump's been telling the Republicans, don't bother to vote. Your vote won't count anyway, which is typical stupidity on his part.
All the gerrymandering that's been going on, that may backfire as well. They may,
Well, what you do is, the one reason the Supreme Court hasn't addressed gerrymandering, it's not just because they're conservative, it's because it's mathematically tricky. That it's there's no one best way to divvy up a state so it's fair.
But it's also they're trying to spread the idea that race doesn't matter, and of course it does.
But some kinds of gerrymandering, in fact, most kinds of gerrymandering, make you vulnerable if there's a landslide against you.
Right.
If you take a state where you've got a few districts that are 60-40 Republican, and you read the state so that you have twice as many districts that are 55-45 Republican, you dilute out the Democrats so they can't ever win any of your districts. But if people are so pissed that they overcome that 45-55 difference,
if the 55 don't show up and the 45 do,
it goes from them needing 10% to needing 5%, to make the difference, and so that's huge.
So I don't know if that'll happen in any part of the country. I mean, you always look, Texas is always a tease. Texas has more registered Democrats than Republicans. And people are always saying, are they going to go blue? Or are they going to, they haven't elected a Democrat to national office is in 30 years, but it always looks like they might. And again, it looks like we've got Ken Paxton running for senator, a complete scumbag, a guy who's been indicted for decades for securities fraud, a guy who banged everybody, not his wife, and then took bribes from people to he could do favors for in government, as long as they helped him hiding all the extramarital fucking he was doing. Just a real sleazeball. He was impeached by the state government versus Tallarico, who's a seminary student. He's about the cleanest you can be. And Paxton's people are calling Tallarico, who's clean and young, they're just calling him a pussy.
Yeah, this false masculinity they're playing in that card as well. Are you giving testosterone to our troops? We're using drones. Come on. I mean, missiles and drones. You don't
even
need
so,
testosterone to operate them.
it's not really clear that the relationship between hypermasculinity and testosterone is actually the way it works. We have quite a few hormones and things and it's actually very complicated. So just this idea that you feed the troops more testosterone and they're going to be more whatever, it's just not scientifically
It's
valid.
not scientific, but it's just not only shallow thinking, but it's the kind of thing that it's so illogical that it hurts your ears when you hear it.
I know.
So,
Well,
testosterone will increase your bench press, but why do you need to bench press 275 to fly drones? The most effective army in the world right now is the Ukrainian army, where they hit the Russians with 10,000 drones a day, and that's the idea that you need steroids, testosterone.
Well, we needed people to make those drones. And
It was invented by the Nazis to make their soldiers more aggressive in World War II. So when we are pumping our troops full of testosterone, we're using an 85-year-old model of war.
All right. I think we've done enough roaring today, unless you guys have a burning desire to share one last roar.
Just this one more thing, which is, Ukraine, this poor ass country with 40 million people, is fighting this very successful war with cheap equipment.
Right.
The U.S. is asking for a total of $1.5 trillion.
Yeah.
Which again is using an obsolete model of military strength. That's we if they got the 1.5 trillion, that would be more than the next 18 countries combined.
Yeah.
Enough
and we just
to
print
buy
money for that. We'll
enough
just
to
print
buy
more
the
money, which is inflationary, which will make everything cost more.
right. So
But
1.5 trillion is enough to buy every building, every house, every Jack in the Box, every building in Houston, to buy the entire city and still have $600 billion left. It's an inconceivable amount of money.
Yeah. It starts to add up. And the national debt is another problem, but another episode in our future. We'll roar about that.
I think it might be interesting again to roar a little bit more about Iran because, like Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, they had the hostage crisis. They had every reason to attack Iran, but nobody was stupid enough to do it because everybody knew they would block the Strait of Hormuz. And there isn't a goddamn thing you can do about it because, as Rick just pointed out, all they need are cheap drones to attack.
Netanyahu has been pitching the same idea of regime change to president after president after president. Trump is the only one that bought it. So he kidnapped one president and he assassinated another leader. When is this going to stop? When are we going to be fed up enough to throw?
He started 8 wars. He promised his thing that he would do is end wars. What is it with his followers? I mean, what would he run on? Lowering inflation in a month. No more wars, ending all the wars. Inflation's going through the roof. He's had 8 wars he started. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
It's partly a math problem where Trump does increasingly ridiculous things and the smarter members of MAGA kind of back away and go silent, which leaves the remaining MAGAs, the loud ones, that it lowers their average IQ. If the smartest people on your side are constantly peeling away, then the average intelligence of your remaining supporters keeps dropping.
And their news source is always the same. It's
right.
And that's one of the issues. But even Fox News has had enough in some cases.
I want to say really quickly, right back when the internet was first I'd go around and give talks about it because I was into it. And one of the things I said is that innovation and growth comes from diversity. and that the danger of the internet was that the algorithms were grouping people together into these groups where they weren't getting information from other people, and that was prescient. I was absolutely right about that.
Yeah. You're absolutely
The bucket. I think I call 2016 the first AI election because the primitive algorithms like Cambridge Analytica could see your social media presence and throw you into one of 4 or 5 buckets, and you would get targeted messaging based on which bucket you were in. And that's primitive. It's only a few buckets, but it worked.
Yeah.
This is too much fun. I guess we're just going to have to wait until next week.
Okay, Donald. And Rick, thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you.
All right. I'll
Thank
just say
you
goodbye
for
to
doing
the
it.
audience. Bye-bye. Okay. So that's the episode 5 of Roar, where we try to talk about preserving our democracy because it's under threat. And what we do is put our voices out there, because right now there's also an atmosphere of fear. You might be targeted if you speak up and speak out. You might be called, you're committing treason if you criticize the president. But enough people do it, there's strength in numbers. So don't forget to roar.